His name was Matteo. Not a friar. Not a priest. Just a lay brother. He cleaned the floors, lit the candles, and never missed prayer. Not once in 14 years. He was quiet, trusted, the kind of man who asked for nothing, and was never asked much in return. Until the day Saint Francis came to visit. The brothers were eager, even nervous. They had heard stories. Some had seen him once, barefoot in the snow, weeping beneath a tree. But Francis didn't arrive to be honored. He arrived because someone had sinned. Something had gone missing from the abbey cellar. Not gold, but bread. And worse, a letter had been tampered with. Not by Francis, but by someone close to him. And Matteo had seen who did it. He saw the friar take the parchment. He saw it sealed again, with Francis's mark. And when the abbot asked, Matteo opened his mouth, then stopped. Because if he spoke, Francis would be blamed. And so he said only, I saw no one. And with that lie, the bell tower slept. For now, the abbot wasn't cruel, but he believed in vows. And Matteo had made his. When he first entered the monastery, he placed his hand on the rule, and swore to speak the truth, when truth was called for. So when the cellar went quiet, and the letter went missing, he asked Matteo plainly, Do you swear before God that you saw nothing? And Matteo, with the weight of the whole chapel on his back, said, I swear. He looked the abbot in the eye when he said it, and he didn't flinch. But something behind the abbot did. The candle on the table, the one that had been burning steady all morning, shuddered once, and died. The wax still hot, the wick untouched, just gone. That night, Matteo cleaned the chapel alone. He moved slower than usual, his feet bare, his breath shallow. And when he passed beneath the bell tower, he didn't look up, because he felt something was already looking down. And the rope, hanging in silence, seemed heavier than before, like it remembered being pulled. It was nearly midnight when Brother Luca heard the sound. Not the bell. Not yet. Just the rope swaying. The chapel was closed. No wind. No one near the tower. But when he passed by, on his way to refill the oil lamps, he heard it. That soft creak of tension in an old rope, beginning to pull. He froze. The bell didn't ring, didn't even tremble. But the rope below it was shifting, slowly, like it was waking up. Brother Luca did not investigate. He turned away, and walked twice as fast, back to the dormitory. The next morning, he told no one but Matteo. And Matteo just closed his eyes. He didn't ask what time it was. He didn't ask how long the sound lasted. He only asked one thing. Was it trying to ring? Later that afternoon, Matteo walked into the chapel and stood beneath the tower. He looked up. For the first time in days, the rope was still. The bell was still. But the dust on the floor beneath it Was not. There were no footprints. But the dust had shifted. Into a perfect circle. Around where he stood. Like something had landed. And left. The first toll came. On the 7th night. No wind. No storms. No footsteps in the hall. Just one. Single. Chime. It rang at 2:17 a.m. An hour the bell was never touched. The monks heard it in their cells. Some sat up in bed. Others prayed silently. Not out of fear. But something older than fear. Recognition. The kind of sound that doesn't just wake you. It remembers you. When they gathered in the chapel, nothing was out of place. The bell hung still. The rope hadn't moved. No signs of entry. No wind. But Brother Matteo was not among them. They found him just after prime. Beneath the tower. Not dead. Not missing. Just gone. His sandals were placed neatly. At the foot of the rope. Facing the altar. Still warm. And surrounding them. Dust undisturbed. No tracks. No drag marks. No path. Just silence. The abbot didn't speak. He only knelt. And whispered. The lie was heard. By morning. The rope had changed. It looked the same. But it no longer hung loose. It was tight. Drawn slightly to the side. As if it had just been pulled. And hadn't yet relaxed. Brother Luca touched it. It was warm. Not from the sun. The bell tower was cold stone. Even in daylight. But the rope held heat. Like it had memory. Like it remembered. Matteo's hands. Even though Matteo had never touched it. That evening. The bell rang again. Twice. Once at dusk. Once just before midnight. Each time. The monks assembled. Each time. They found nothing. But after the second toll. A single page of parchment was found on the altar. No ink. No seal. Just 3 words. Burned into the surface. I saw him. The abbot took the page. Folded it once. And placed it beneath the altar cloth. Then he spoke aloud. For the first time since Matteo vanished. We never asked who the lie protected. And the rope above them tightened slightly again. But it did not fall. Not yet. The bell rang again. But this time, no one heard it. Except one. Brother Pietro had remained in the chapel. Long after Compline. Praying silently. Facing the altar. His head bowed low. When the sound came. It passed through him. Not into his ears. But through his chest. A single toll. Heavy. Sharp. But when he looked up. The candles hadn't flickered. The others hadn't stirred. He walked to the bell tower. Heart pounding. And saw it. The bell was swinging. Gently. Just enough. To catch the light. And yet. There was no echo. When he told the abbot. He expected a warning. Or disbelief. Instead. The abbot only said. Then it was meant for you. And handed him. A folded scrap of parchment. From his robe. It had been left. At the foot of the altar. That morning. Same handwriting. As before. Same message. Repeated in darker ink. I saw him. But this time. A fourth word had been added. At the bottom. Written smaller than the rest. You. That night. Brother Pietro did not sleep. He stood beneath the bell tower, waiting for it to ring again. But the rope did not move. Only the wind. And yet the leaves outside didn't stir. At dawn, the monks gathered in silence. Not for mass, but because they felt something was about to end. The sky was colorless. The wind had stopped. Even the birds in the orchard had gone still. And when the bell finally rang, it rang 3 times. Not loud. Not wild. But exact. Like someone had been waiting for the right hour. And no longer needed permission. This time, they did not rush to the tower. They walked. Every step heavy. Like they already knew what they would not find. And they were right. The rope was swaying gently. The bell above it still glistening with dew. But at the base, nothing. No sandals. No parchment. Only a name. Written in ash. On the stone floor. Matteo. The abbot knelt. His voice barely rose above a whisper. He lied for mercy. And mercy remembered him. Later that night, a final note was found tucked in the psalter Matteo once carried. I did not lie to hide the truth. I lied because Francis wept when no one saw. And I could not let them blame the tear. They never rang the bell again. Not by hand. Not for mass. Not for morning. The tower was sealed. The rope cut. But they never found the blade. Only the severed end. Coiled neatly at the base. As if placed there. By someone who knew it wouldn't be needed again. In the weeks that followed, the dust in the chapel settled again. No more notes. No more tolls. Just silence. But it wasn't empty. It was full. The kind of silence that knows exactly what was taken and why it had to be. Saint Francis left the monastery without a word. He said nothing about the letter. Nothing about Matteo. Only paused once. Beneath the bell tower. He looked up. Then smiled. Not in joy. Not in sorrow. But in understanding. And as he walked barefoot down the hill, one of the younger brothers asked, "Will the bell ever ring again?" Francis answered softly, "Only if someone else dares to protect me." The bell has never rung since. But every year, on the night of the lie, the air beneath the tower warms. And the dust forms a perfect circle, where no one stands.